Good morning. Good morning to everyone from India. And a very warm welcome to PSD 2020, the E version. As you are aware, we were supposed to have this meeting in Mumbai during 22nd March to 27th March last year, 2020. And we had to call it off on 5th of March. And it so happened the lockdown started in India from the day we are supposed to have started. Then we had planned it for June. Then we thought that we were very, very optimistic that by June things will be over, but then November. But I think we're still not ready for that. So we are going for this E version of PSD 2020. During this process, we have made all the preparation and we have used all our experience in video conferencing during the last 1 year. And this program is also being live streamed through YouTube, and it is recorded in case somebody misses. He can see the program in the YouTube. We have contacted each and every member who had registered before, and all of them have agreed to give the talk. So totally we have 51 presentations. In fact, we had 15 posters, and we contacted, and only 4 of them showed interest. And thanks to Reinhard, he had provided us a technical solution to have the poster station where in BBB, where posters were supposed to have been uploaded, and it would be like a virtual conference room. But since there are very poor response from the people who were going to present the poster, we didn't go ahead with that. And only those 4 who had agreed, we converted them to oral presentation. So that is how we are now today 51 presentations. So I hope that it's a technology and things may there may be few hiccups, but I hope that we have taken full preparation. We have made full preparation, and we have backup plans also. So I hope there will be no problem, and it will be a smooth affair. Coming to our Positron community, we had a big loss in terms of the death of Professor KG Lin, who is who was a doyen in positron annihilation, in the field of positron annihilation spectroscopy and related areas. And I take this opportunity, to mourn the loss. And we have, in his honor, we have a talk by Professor Alex Weiss and Dr. Farida Salim, and they'll be talking about him. We'll just recall his life and work uh, during this session itself. So, finally, I take this opportunity to, a lot of preparation has gone. A lot of people have worked very hard for bringing it to this stage. So I thank all of them, especially my team. And then I thank the authorities in Bhava Atomic Research Center and Board of Research in Nuclear Sciences who funded it. Because we did not really require much money, and we could get it from BRNS because it is a e-conference. We could afford to return the registration fee of the participants. Unfortunately, to the bank transactions and rupee fluctuation, we might have lost quite a bit of money. But I'm very sorry for that. So I also thank authorities in BRC. I thank Indian Association of Nuclear Chemists and Lab Scientists, who are actually a uh, joint organizer. I mean, this is an association which has helped us a lot. And finally, I thank my team members here. All of them are here actually in this hall today. It's I think you can see in one of the short frames, uh, all the members are present, and I hope everything will go off well, and we'll have a very successful PSG 2020. So thank you very much for waking up so early in Europe. I think US it will be too late. And uh, so now over to, I think, Alex or oh, sorry, yeah. Over to Reinhard. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Reinhard.
Okay, do you hear me? Can you hear me? Radek? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. No
We are not
problem.
able to hear.
So now I can try to.
Can you unmute it? No, we are not unmuted.
Okay, just a moment. I will try to get my talk. So I'm not sure. Can you see my talk history of PSD87? Oh, okay. I'm not sure how to do it. Can you see my talk? Actually, anybody? Radek?
I can't.
Oh, come on. I tried to open my contribution here, but it doesn't not work for some reason. Well, I don't know. Can you see my contribution actually? Can you see my talk, please?
Reinhard, nobody is able to listen to you. For some reason, I don't know, here at least in the chat, we are asking people, can you look at the sockets and then
send a message to Alex to unmute and speak. Let's check at least himself.
I can tell. Or till Reinhard, till you, I'll just request Alex, can you just unmute and speak? We just want to know if things are okay. You have to unmute him.
Yeah, so can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. Hello, everyone. So
Go back to
you want
Reinhard.
to try
Yeah.
Reinhard again?
Yeah. Try him again and let's see.
Can you hear me now, Pradip?
No, it is fine. Perfect.
Okay, so okay, just a moment. I will try to get my
So
talk
Alex, mute
running.
Alex.
Just a moment, please. Okay, so let's try. Freigeben. So. Can you see my talk? Ah, it doesn't work. I don't know why. I tried it before. That was fine. I don't know. Pradip, can you hear me? Yeah, maybe you switch to Alex and I will try again. I don't know why it doesn't work. I'm really sorry. I will try to get this running. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, let's continue with Alex. Okay. Andreas. Ach so. Okay. Ich bleib mal dran, kleinen Moment. So, Andreas Wagner called me and he said, everything is fine. So I'm just surprised. Okay, I will try it. So you can see my presentation, yes? But just screen me sign. Okay. So then I will try. So I was asked to give some remarks about the history of PSD 87 to 2020 now. And my first slide shows an overview about all these conferences. It starts in 87 actually. Let me see whether I can get the next page. Okay, doesn't work. I don't know why. Yeah, okay. Okay, let me try here. Okay, so I think it works. Yeah, so the story started in 87 in Wernigerode in Germany, not far from Halle actually. The intention was to bring together people from Eastern Europe, in the Eastern world, say Poland, Hungary, Czech, Soviet Union, and East Germany also, to the West people. So scientists which are well known, as you can see here, for instance, this is Günter Lübeck was the one who did this, and in the back you can see Pekka Hautujärvi, and here you can see me. It's in this picture here actually. So this guy there, for 40 kilogram less than now. Okay, so this is a conference photo, and you can see quite many people from the west and also from the east. Pekka was there, and many other people. And for instance, Triftshäuser was there, but this was not easy actually. Triftshäuser was a university of the Bundeswehr, and therefore it was a problem to invite him. But finally, we succeeded, and we had a very nice meeting there. It was very successful and very many people. The number of participants was never reached after that once again. Yeah, then we had the German unification, and then we thought, okay, why not trying to get some money from the German Heraeus Foundation to organize the meeting? And we called it PSSD, not PSD anymore. And the reason was there were very many groups to this time studying semiconductor defects. Therefore, we called it Positron Studies of Semiconductor Defects in '94 in Halle. Yeah, and this title PSSD was then valid for 10 years. So this was, for instance, Hamilton in Canada. So it was organized by Peter Mascher, and I was also there, and some other friends also. And the next meeting was in Sendai, still PSSD, and study of semiconductor defects was to this time still really popular, and there were very many groups really. Even today there are several groups, but not anymore so many. So we had the nice meeting there, and nice conference banquet and so on. And then finally, this was in the last PSSD meeting. It was in Pullman City, USA, in 2004, and you can see the number of people drops already. So then we decided to have a PSD meeting. So we said we excluded the semiconductors and accepted all defect studies. And this meeting was held in Prague actually, and this was organized by Jan Kuriplach and Jakub Čížek also, and yeah, a small number of people still, but you see that building in the right, and in this building we have been recently for Slopos conference. It is a building of the university just in the center of Prague, and it was quite successful. Sitting there, I got the idea, why not asking Henk Schutt whether he's willing to organize the next meeting. He was not present here, but I sent him an email and he accepted, yes, okay, we can do it. And so next time we met in Delft in the Netherlands, and that was also very, very good place for the conference there. And we had again a very, very successful meeting there in Delft. Also, we have seen nice tours there in this very beautiful landscape in the Netherlands. Yeah, and then we have been in Japan, in Kyoto, Japan again, and Kyoto, and we have been here. This is the main building of the university, and you see the participants. And of course, because we were in Kyoto, we had to visit this golden shrine there. And then the last meeting then was in Dresden, Helmholtz-Zentrum Dresden-Rossendorf. Organizer was Andreas Wagner. And again, it was very nice because when the workshop is not so big, the personal contacts are much better, and you can discuss about projects and your recent results. And this was always the secret of these small workshops, to be very personal. Yeah, so we had usually 50 to 70 participants. This time we have 51, or we will have 51 presentations, and there are several listeners. I think we have the same number almost. And I think we will get also a very successful meeting here. Also, my presentation really the start was not very good. I'm really sorry for this. Okay, so just let me in the last slide announce the next Positron meetings. So we will have in this year still, we will have a further online meeting done by Radek Zaleski. He called it PPC 12.5, and the reason for this is that the PPC 13 was already announced by Japanese colleagues. And you can see here in this slide, it will be in 2024 by Hirade, Nakashima, and Ito. And this is already decided that we will have this PSD meeting PPC meeting in 24. But in this summer, the end of August, we will have another online meeting by Radek. And I think he will do it in a very nice way. So in ICP 19, this is, okay, we shifted it just by 1 year. So the gap is not too big between the conferences. This is an original meeting, real meeting at University of Helsinki, and will be organized by Philip Turmistum. And then the year after, we will have the Slopas meeting at the University of Orléans, organized by Marie-France. And then in 2024, as I said, we will have PPC again, and this will be in Japan. And PSD is not decided. If you like to organize it, just show up to one of the members of the International Advisory Committee, and we can probably or hopefully announce this in the summary talk by Akira Uedono. So therefore, this means I'm ready now. Thank you very much. And I will show up a little bit later with my talk, with my plenary talk. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reinhard. It's a very nice summing up of the PSD journey. Now I request Alex to give the first part of the in memoriam talk on KG Lane.
All right, I'm unmuting, and I'll try to share my screen. So did the the screen sharing work? Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much. I want to thank the organizers for being patient with me. I'm afraid I was one of those people who didn't respond very quickly. I appreciate that, and I appreciate my collaborator on this talk, Farida Salim, who was very kind to work with me on this. So, yeah, Kelvin Lin passed away, unfortunately, about a little over a year ago, in January 2020, while skiing with old friends of his. And I think he was enjoying life to the end, and he certainly had a great verve for life. So I'm going to, Farida and I split it up. I'm going to cover the years that Kelvin was at Brookhaven National Lab. That's where I knew him and first met him, and that's where I collaborated with him. So Kelvin got his PhD in 1974 from the University of Utah, and before that he received 2 bachelors, including 1 bachelor in mathematics from the University of Utah. So, and he started immediately after graduation from Utah, went to Brookhaven National Laboratory, where from 1974 to 1996, and he started as an assistant physicist at Brookhaven and rose through the ranks, got tenure, became a scientist, and then eventually rose to the level of division head, and he was division head of both the Division of Applied Physics and the Division of Material Science. And starting in 87, he started as associate editor of the Physical Review, and before that he had been an acting editor at Physical Review Letters. So one of the Kelvin made many contributions to the field, and I'll discuss some of those in a minute, but one of his biggest contributions was in collaborating and mentoring other people in the in the field. And this is just a partial list of his many collaborators. And some of them were senior at the time, and some of them were quite junior and went on to become senior members of the field. And Kelvin passed on his knowledge of positron beams to groups around the world, and I think including Finland and Holland. And
Alex, are you just a small interruption? Are you sharing any screen? Do you have slides?
I thought I was, yes.
No, but it's not. I think it has not happened. We
Let
can't
me
see
try-
the slides. Yeah.
Let me try it again.
Yeah. Now it is coming. Yeah. Yes.
Ah, sorry.
Good.
Sorry.
Continue, please.
All right,
Continue.
let me back up. So this just a picture of Kelvin, and then so again, here's a list of just a partial list of his collaborators, and you can see from the list Roy West, Alan Mills, Carl Cantor, Mike Carlton, Warren Eldrup. I mean, Kelvin was one of the the founding members of the positron beam community, and so he helped spread the low energy positron beam techniques all over the world. And so amongst his many achievements were he was actually the first to do 2D coincidence Doppler, as far as I could tell, and I'll show you that paper in a minute. And then he also was amongst the first to use positron beams for defect profiling, and he studied did a lot of fundamental studies of positron interactions with materials, low energy positron interactions, positron diffusion to the surface, positron surface interactions, positronium emission, positron diffraction, positron annihilation induced Auger in collaboration with myself, positron stimulated secondary electrons, also in collaboration with myself, and positron energy loss spectroscopy. He also, in collaboration with Mills, West, Burko, and Cantor, Len Rolick, did ACAR from surfaces. He was probably the only person with the audacity to try to bring Roy West and Steve Burko together on one project, but it worked under Kelvin's leadership. And this is a list of, thanks to Mark Weber, of Kelvin's hits in defectoscopy, we called it, and vacancy formation enthalpies in metals, observation of vacancy migration at stage 3 annealing, vacancy observation in compound semiconductors, vacancy characterization of the EL2 defect or determination of the vacancy character of the EL2 defect in gallium arsenide, and the role of defects in high TC superconductors, and open volume measurements of polymers and defects at semiconductor interfaces. So Kelvin had over 600 publications, more than 14,000 citations. So these were highly cited work, very influential. And his most highly cited paper was actually a review of a really good review of the interaction of positron beams with surfaces and interfaces that he wrote together with his then postdoc Peter Schultz. And I know a lot of us have used some variation of this figure on the right, illustrating all the different things that happen when the positron hits the surface, including slowing down and stopping implantation profile diffusion to the surface, positronium emission, positron emission, diffraction, all the various mechanisms. And on the left is a very early example of defect profiling using a variable energy beam, where we look at the positron, look at the S parameter as a function of positron beam energy. And as I said, Kelvin was actually the first that I know to do 2D Doppler broadening in 1977. This he did with collaborators at Bell Labs and Bondarup and Golubchenko from Aarhus at the time. Golubchenko went to Harvard later. So this shows the 2D histogram that the paper in NIM, Nuclear Instruments and Methods, in 1978. The original paper was in Phys Letters in 1977, reporting the results. And he showed, well, this is a later paper, 10 years later or so, well, actually 18 years later, where by Ashok Kumar, where they were now using the positron beam to do 2D, two-dimensional Doppler broadening. What he showed was, this shows the center panel here. Let's see, I've got my laser pointing. The center panel shows the background reduction that you get using the two detector technique. And this is with one detector, the black, and then the one is with the coincidence with sodium iodide, and this is two germanium detectors in coincidence. And he was able to decompose the spectrum, but he had more than 5 orders of magnitude of dynamic range, and was able to see the contributions way out in the high momentum region and decompose the spectrum into the components of the different core levels. And then Ashok Kumar, in collaboration with Lynn, showed that you had sufficient ability to distinguish different elements by looking out in the tail of in the high momentum region of the 2D Doppler spectrum. So this was a significant advance, and people have been using this technique since then extensively to look at the environmental defects, the elemental environmental defects. Now let's see, that's my slide here. So and he also pioneered the use of positron beams, variable energy positron beams for defect profiling. And this shows, again, some early work that he did with, this was a single author paper in 1980. And this was a paper he did with Ashok Kumar, Lynn, and Welch in 94. And then this is looking at I believe the SiO2 SI interface, a very, very important interface for devices. So again, he was a pioneer in positron beam development. At one point, I think he had like 7 beams running at once at Brookhaven. He had the so-called backlab beam, which was a magnetic beam, which got a lot of his important defect results. And this is a paper in Review of Scientific Instruments in 1980. He also had an electrostatic beam for doing positron diffraction. We did it at Brandeis, but he was competing with us, and he did it soon after at Brookhaven. And we had the first that I know of reactor-based positron beam, high intensity beam, and was able to do a beam-based ACAR surfaces, and did a number of important studies using that beam. Then he built a vertical positron beam for looking at liquid metals, and then he had a 2D Doppler beam, and he was working just at the time he was leaving Brookhaven. He was about to finish up a high flux positron beam using copper 64 from the reactor. So Alvin was not shy. He was often in the newspaper. There's a couple of clips from the Brookhaven Bulletin, which was the newsletter of Brookhaven National Lab, and this shows the first slow pause. So Kelvin actually organized the slow pause in 1981, and supposedly he organized it because the story was that he was trying to tour different labs and find out information on the positron beams and the latest developments, and he wasn't getting good cooperation, and so he invited all his competitors to Brookhaven for a conference, and people started talking to each other, and it was a big advance. He also was involved in many other areas of physics, including the hunt for cold fusion, when cold fusion first came out. And Kelvin did careful studies and demonstrated that actually there wasn't any cold fusion, that the neutrons weren't being emitted. And this actually caused a big stir in the business world, because it was reported in the New York Times, and which has changed the market for palladium. And then Kelvin had a keen sense of humor. It's unfortunately, this is again from the Brookhaven Bulletin. Very hard to see the picture, but there are two very small scientists standing right here, one of whom is Kelvin Lynn, the other is a technical assistant, Mike Carroll. And this is supposed to be a giant positron beam, but this is actually the back lab beam. It was magnetically guided beam, and the actual scale is more that this is about it was about 2 meters at maximum, maybe 1.5 meters high on the average, but it's made to appear multiple. I think they say it's 5 meters high in the caption here, and 4 meters long, and no, 10 meters long, 12 meters long, whatever. It's and it was meant as a joke. It was in the and it had at the bottom of the thing it said that this is a joke. April 1st is a day when sometimes newspapers print joke pages. So again, here's some pictures of Kelvin, and he was a wonderful collaborator, and he was. I remember that I had an idea to do this crochet, but Kelvin had just developed the electrostatic beam at this time, and I felt like he would be able to do this experiment if he thought about it. He could do this experiment quite easily. So I was afraid that he would scoop me. So I called him up on the phone and I said, Kelvin, I have this idea. Can I come up to Brookhaven and use the electrostatic beam at Brookhaven and try this experiment? And he said, yes, absolutely. Come on up. And he invited me and my whole family up. My son had just been born. And he was a great collaborator, and I worked with Lou Mayer, his postdoc, and we did the experiment. We published it a year later. That was extremely helpful to me in my career, and I know he was extremely helpful to many other young scientists in starting their careers. So he was a wonderful collaborator and a mentor. I learned a tremendous amount from him. Kelvin had an amazing knowledge of the literature. He knew all the literature. He could ask him a question, or you could talk with him, and he would say, "Oh, you should look at this paper or that paper." And, he was a great friend. So I'll end there, and I'll turn it over for Rita. This is a picture of me and Kelvin at the slow pause in Magnetic Island in Australia. We're sitting outside the room, and Kelvin is pointing at something and asking me some really difficult question that I'm having trouble answering. That would be typical Kelvin. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Farida.
Yeah, now request Dr. Farida, and I think I've run out of time, so it could be as brief as you could. It'd be really nice, Farida. Over to you, Farida.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I will be very brief after the very nice actually tribute from Alex. So it's of course of hearts for me to do similar job to Alex. So I'm really very brief, and I'll talk about the time Kelvin spent at Washington State. I get to know Kelvin from 2005 when I joined him as a postdoc from 2005 to 2007. So I'm really gonna be brief. I'll talk about the very last period of his career and what I know about him from Washington State. So let me share my screen. So I will start actually a very quick introduction, also about his bio. This is the first two. This is two pictures. The first one. This is the first photo for Kelvin when he's a baby, and this is the last photo for him. So this is very much cover all his life from the first moment to the last moment. He born in February 2nd, 1948 in Rapid City in South Dakota. And then he went to college, like I think Alex mentioned, University of Utah. Actually, it was after his girlfriend, as I heard. And he also got his PhD from University of Utah. And it was in material science and engineering. It was positron annihilation spectroscopy. This is where he started the field. And like Alex said, from 1974 to 1996, it was in Brookhaven National Lab, and already Alex covers this period. And from 1996 to 2020, he actually moved to Washington State University in Pullman. And this is very much against the publication citation. So I'll talk a brief about his life in Washington State. This is his photo here in the golf course at Washington State University. He plays golf with, and he has Washington State robe. He was a professor at Department of Physics. He joined actually from 1996 as a professor at Department of Physics and professor at Department of Material Science and Engineering. And he was the director for the Center of Material Research since it started at Washington State until actually he died in 2020. In his recognition for his work at Washington State University, he named a Regents Professor, eminent professor. He was Boeing Chair of Advanced Material. He was also fellow at Washington State Academy of Science. And also he was a fellow at APS, American Physical Society. I know you probably, Alex talked a lot about Kelvin contribution in positron field, and you're probably more familiar than me about all his early work in this. But I really want to mention when he came to Washington State, He continued with positron. He developed the accelerator-based positron beam at Washington State. But he also, his curiosity also took him to different fields. So he started in semiconductor and photonic material and the crystal growth. So Sabri, I'm not sure if you know this, but Kelvin is one of the best crystal grower in America. So he really set up very, very nice facility at Washington State to grow single crystal. And some of the important crystal, he grow crystal for solar cells, cadmium telluride special. And I'll show you the paper actually he published in Nature Energy on this in a minute. But this was his big contribution during his time at Washington State. And this was far from positron research. It was really more broad in many areas. And also it grows yttrium aluminum oxide, the YAG crystal for laser and scintillation detector. And even up to the last moment, actually, until he passed away in January 2020, he was actually growing gallium oxide. Of course, the gallium oxide just emerged as a now very hot material for semiconductor and high power devices. And the Kelvin actually stepped in right away and started to grow gallium oxide single crystal. So he was actually working in this area and until the last moment of his life, and he also succeeded in this field. He also worked in radiation detector, like he has a breakthrough on the CZT material, growing the material and make the radiation detector. So I just want to mention that Kelvin is not only his contribution in the positron field, but is really a lot of area in semiconductor and material science. And his semiconductor contribution started from silicon, went to oxide semiconductor like zinc oxide, and finally to gallium oxide. Let me actually mention some of the important contribution here that he did at Washington State. So this is a paper published in Nature Energy about cadmium telluride. And this really was materials breakthrough because it was able to achieve to capture solar energy much efficient than all the material that present. And you can see the publication in Nature Energy. I want to also mention, I said I actually get to start to work with Kelvin in 2005 as a postdoc. However, I get to know Kelvin before as he was collaborator actually to my advisor when we started to work I started to work as a student at Lawrence Livermore, and our work was to develop a million electron volt positron beam for channeling experiment and flight annihilation. And of course, Kelvin really used to come to Lawrence Livermore, and he was very much collaborator in this work. So you can see here his name on the paper here. This paper published in Letter to Nature, and it's actually very, very interesting work about 2.8 MeV positron beam, and you channel this beam, and it will go through a single crystal of gold, and we can look to the in-flight quantum annihilation from this crystal. So I'm actually just to mention to the very two important paper, like all power, Letter on Nature and Nature Energy, that Kelvin actually published during his time at Washington State. In addition, of course, to another 300 paper published there. So this is a very last photo for Kelvin too. Like Alex said, he was really very active in life. You see, this is his photo, very recent photo in his gym. And this is a photo, I think this is probably the last talk give. It was an ICBA 18 in Orlando. So this was his plenary talk in Orlando. I want to show some tribute I get from our colleague at WSU, Kelvin. But also I want to mention what's really important that I learned from Kelvin as a mentor. So like I said, Kelvin really, you learn from him how you can be very broad, and you can work in a lot of fields. He was always, he always his curiosity took him to different fields. It's not like he learned a positron, he worked in positron his life. No, but he started many fields, and we learned that from him, that we can do many projects at the same time. We don't have to stuck only to one project. I also, Kelvin was really very smart. If you talk to him, you can see that he talked probably in 8 subjects at the same time. So when we are a student or postdoc, you just talk to one sentence and move to the other one, another sentence. So you really have to be smart to be able to follow on him. So this is some tribute we get from our colleague at Washington State. This is from Maria Okenisanki. She was a graduate student, and now she's assistant professor at Purdue University, and she came to do positron measurement, and that's like you see said here, all road led to Kelvin. So we try to do positron. So everybody actually appointed her to join Kelvin to do this work. So this is really some of the photos that she sent to me. And then I want to show, of course, Mark Weber. He's always with Kelvin from his time at Brookhaven, and then he moved from his Washington State. So he actually provided this very nice photo. For this is, I think Alex already shows this photo with Kelvin at the positron beam in Brookhaven. This is also a very nice photo for Kelvin, and this is his Kelvin and his wife. This is his graduation at one of the graduation of a student at Washington State, and you can see here the stuff we know about Kelvin and master crystal grower, the cold diffusion. This is also early photo for Kelvin. The last thing I want to actually mention from also one colleague from Washington State, he just told me this story. Kelvin actually was really tough on the student, so he want to keep them honest. So he has a telescope in his house. He used the telescope to look to the lab. He can see the lab from there. So he see when the student turn off the light, and one day asks them, how long you work in the lab? They tell him up to midnight. But then he tells them, I mean, you're working dark, because since 8 o'clock, the room was dark very much. So Kelvin was really kind of also try to keep his student postdoc honest in his work. So this is all I want to say, and thank you very much, guys, for giving us the opportunity to talk about Kelvin and remember his work.
Thank you, Parida. Thank you very much. Thanks to Alex and Parida for providing a very nice events of PGD. So it was wonderful. Now I request my colleague Dr. Kathi Sudarshan to offer the vote of thanks for this ceremony.
Namaskar from Mumbai. Welcome to all of you for the virtual conference of PhD. And it's my honor to propose vote of thanks on behalf of everybody sitting in this conference room. And the organizers of PhD20 would like to thank the International Committee for choosing India to host PhD20 after the success of ICPA in 2009 and PPC in 2014. And I would like to thank the authorities at the Department of Atomic Energy and Bhabha Atomic Research Center who have permitted us to use the resources of the department for organizing this conference, including this conference room, to most of the stuff that we are going to use in this conference. And I acknowledge the support rendered by the Indian Association of Chemists and Allied Scientists, INCAS, as the co-organizers of this conference, and express my gratitude to Board of Research in Nuclear Sciences for their financial support and other well-wishers who pitched in. And it was very important for their financial support to cover the losses for the cancellations too. And I am indebted to the support rendered by Dr. P.K. Pujari, the organizing chair of the PSD20, and he has been instrumental in both bringing this conference to India and also organizing this conference. And he has motivated us to get back on our feet when we were disappointed after cancelling the conference at the last moment after everything was prepared. And I also thank the people who are the foot soldiers, I would say, from our group, who have been constantly working to put this together. And I will take few names now. To start with, Jaydeep, Debarati, Pranav, Muthu, Saurav, Priya, Sandeep, and Dandeep. And your dedication and efforts are unparalleled in bringing this conference to the level that we could host, and hope that we would get on with the conference without any hiccups. And not last but not the least, I thank all the participants of the conference who are with us for the last 1 year, even after the cancellation at the last moment, which resulted in financial losses to you. Thank you very much for sympathetically understanding our situation and being on board with us for the last 1 year, and hope all of you will have a very fruitful next 5 days. Thank you very much. And since we are already a bit delayed, we will start this session 1 exactly 2 minutes after. Means we will just take 2 minutes break, and just the photo shows the preparedness that we had for the initial round of conference with the tour, plant tour, etc. So we just want to show you the things that we have missed, and hope to see you sometime in Mumbai for a physical conference where we can relive the things. Thank you one and all again, and we will get back to the technical session exactly after 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
So